Hello and welcome back to the Bowers Tribe Facebook Friends Tour. This is interview number 31. I'm here with an old buddy of mine, Jason Woodland, today. I mean, this is
What's up?
And we're here up in Holiday at his new office that he transitioned to recently, and I've been corresponding and connecting with this guy for a while now. We talked in the very first show. We had quote-unquote affiliation with Shelter back in 1989 at the Palladium.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just been off and on since then with different concerts and different places and different bands and different venues. And now Jason's a very interesting and unique individual because not only does he extend back into the punk rock days of music and stuff like that, he's transitioned into entrepreneurship now that we're in 2018 and been in that for a while. And he talked about how that experience with being in the punk rock scene and stuff like kind of triggered that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The concept of punk rock is really all about DIY or do it yourself. And it's I think entrepreneurship really runs in everybody's blood. It's just a matter of breaking out of that realm and jumping in and just doing it. Starting a business or, selling a product or putting a product together, or whatever that looks like, and just getting it out there.
How long would you say you started tapping into entrepreneurship as far as making a living from it?
Elementary school.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and of course elementary school wasn't about like making a living per se.
Yeah.
But it actually does connect to my dear mother, who at one time in our youth struggled severely with alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
And there was periods of time that she was out of work, and I've got a little sister, and well, we're both grown up now, but I still call her my little sister.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, there was sometimes not food in the house, and so I would go out and steal hubcaps. And I found that was a good flip business.
Yeah.
I was in 4th and 5th grade at the time, and that's really the onset of my entrepreneurism. Now, of course, I'm not stealing hubcaps anymore, and I do not suggest doing so.
You've grown out of that since then.
Totally grown out of it.
Found other ways to make money.
Exactly.
Now you also do, I didn't even know this about you until literally today, you do a podcast.
Yes.
And that's something, a new venture you've kind of got into. Can you tell me a little bit what inspired that and what you do with that?
Yeah, so the inspiration for the podcast actually dates back to the movie Pump Up the Volume that came on, I think, 1990.
Christian Slater. Old school.
And that movie is about pirate radio.
Yeah.
And I've always been ultra inspired by that. So when the concept of podcasting came out, that was always something I wanted to get into, but didn't really have the time or made the excuses or whatever that was.
Yeah.
So I launched the podcast, I think it was in October of last year.
Oh, cool.
I'm on episode number 5, and I've got the 3 next interviewees set up, and he's going to be probably the 4th or 5th on that list, so that's going to be pretty exciting too. So.
That's so cool. Now, also, I know this is a tough challenge we talked about earlier. Can you maybe talk a little bit about some of the top influential bands you've experienced?
Yeah, so I can. So as a youth, so my mother was a huge impact on me. She instilled a large amount of self-confidence in me, which I'm truly grateful for. She also just taught me a ton. And of course, the alcoholism would ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And when she was sort of in more of a clean state of being, she was doing homework with me and having me read books and just teaching me a ton of stuff, and a lot of that revolved around music.
Okay.
And she had a huge record collection. In fact, she's the one that got me into record collecting when I was a youth.
Oh, cool.
She'd keep me up on Saturday night and teach me everything about Led Zeppelin and the Doors and James Brown. She gave me a Curtis Mayfield record when I was, I think I was in 5th grade. She gave it to me for my birthday. It was the Superfly soundtrack, and that was one of the best presents, and I still have it to this day. So anyway, when it comes to music, I'm very eclectic, very open-minded to all genres and always have been. ranging from hardcore and hip hop and punk rock and metal and 60s and disco and you name it.
Yeah.
But I would say out of the hardcore genre, Judge would be very influential to me. Agnostic Front, Youth of Today, some of these bands that really had a huge impact on me growing up and the different lessons taught. Underdog being one of them as well. So
fun.
then of course outside of that realm like Steely Dan and Iron Maiden and John Coltrane is just all over the board.
I think Steely Dan was in town last night, wasn't
Yes,
it?
they were.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to see it?
No, I've seen them a few times before, but we weren't able to get out there last night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now on the opposite spectrum, as like an entrepreneur, what would you say some of your top influential books or positive motivational information would be for you?
So that's pretty interesting. At a young age, I got into reading pretty heavily. A lot of that actually stems from my grandfather. My sister and I, at a period of time when we had to put my mom into a hospital when we were in 5th grade, we were sent to live with our grandparents.
Okay.
And when we lived there, my grandfather was a very strictly business type of guy, and he had us reading every single day. Outside of our normal homework, but he'd have us reading dictionaries and we'd be reading encyclopedias and we'd have to memorize words out of the dictionaries. And he'd also have us reading really quite thick books. I'm talking like high school level books when we were in 5th grade.
Wow.
Anyway, he taught me, he said, I want you to pick up as many keys as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what do you mean by keys? And he said, well, keys could be anything. They could be books you read, people you meet, classes you take, degrees you get, whatever that looks like. He said, if one day you come upon a door and that door is locked and you choicefully didn't pick up that key at some point, you'll only have yourself to blame.
Yeah.
And growing up in sort of a rough and tumble type environment in certain circumstances, I didn't ever want to feel those vulnerabilities again. So I wanted to learn everything I possibly could to help as many people as I could as well. So some of the books that I've always loved are Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Classic.
It's a classic. It's one that I've read probably 7 or 8 times now. Another book of mine that's been hugely impactful was The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Okay.
And that book, not necessarily from the point of view of how to win the war per se, it's really more philosophical on how to win the war before the war even begins.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of wonderful background philosophies to it. I love Tony Robbins. Had the opportunity of meeting him one time.
Oh, fun.
And was able to have almost a 10-minute conversation with him, which was a great opportunity. So anyway, I love personal development books.
Yeah.
But what I say to people is personal development books mean absolutely nothing unless you put it into action.
Yeah, it's all about action.
It's all about action.
Totally
Because you
get
can
that.
read all the feel-good books until the cows come home, but unless you put it in action, nothing's going to happen.
Exactly, I totally get that. And the thing you talk about picking up keys and creating and gathering keys as far as like, and that's essentially metaphorically networking and things like that with people.
Sure.
And I've watched you. You're like the king of networking. Like you're at all these different business events and meetups and associations, and it's like super cool just to witness all the different people in different circles that you've actually are in outside of from 20 years ago to today. The amount of people that you have influence with and on and interaction with is amazing. Can you talk a little bit about that experience for you, not only professionally, but there's also other interactions that we're not going to talk about that are just amazing with people in general on this planet that you've had.
Thanks.
Can you talk a little bit about what that's been like with meeting all these different varieties of people in so many different areas of life?
Yeah, absolutely. At a young age also, that came from my mother, is having a care for people. It doesn't matter religious background or race or anything whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's all about the care for people. And so my love of networking is all about making friends. Literally, that's it. And I love people. I love making friends. I love learning from people. I love learning different backgrounds. I love sitting with people and especially people that I may perceive to have a different view than I do. I love sitting down with them and asking those questions so I can learn the what and the whys.
Yeah.
And it helps with my critical thinking process as well. But anyway, that's really what it boils down to, is that I love people. The backgrounds, the more diverse, the better.
Yes.
And yeah, it's just fun. I love getting out there and just meeting people and also helping them if I'm able to. And if I'm not able to, connecting them with someone else that I might know that could help them out. Whether they're trying to get their windows cleaned, or whether they're needing a mortgage, or just someone trusted in the professional community, I'm able to do my best to help connect the dots for people.
That's so cool. Well, that old statement goes, the main 5 people that you're constantly within your circle around is the biggest influence on us as we grow with not only entrepreneurship, with our personalities and PMA, positive mental attitude, and things like that. And so it's literally like just a total environment, atmosphere, and we get to choose what that atmosphere is.
Yep.
And sometimes, when we're in the middle of our stuff, like the stuff we were talking about, growing up as a little young man in the atmosphere you're in, which I had the same atmosphere. I grew up with an alcoholic. Sometimes it's difficult to feel that, is it really my choice to choose who I'm around and stuff like that? But it always is, no matter no matter what it's like.
Yeah. And I take it one step further as well with the average of the 5.
Yeah.
Because you hear that a lot with the average of the 5 people.
Yes.
I also take it that next step further and say you're also the average of the 5 books you read, the 5 magazines you read, the 5 movies you watch, the 5 places you hang out. You're the average of that. Mm-hmm. And if you like where you're at, that's awesome. And if you don't, change up that 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And I've experienced a lot of that in the last year, not only with this tour, but other things I've tapped into, just connected and met people I didn't know they didn't even know. And it's just like, it goes fast. Like I've said this before, the universe likes speed. And I didn't really believe that until now, most recently, with how fast and all the different people I've connected with. And it's just been amazing. Now you still love old school hardcore music. You still go. Absolutely. I saw you at the Judge concert.
Absolutely.
Like a couple months ago. I even seen you're pretty daring at our age. You're in the pit still. I'm like, or you're like front row. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so that's really cool to witness that.
Thanks, and thanks for letting me sit on the side, because I still have a kink in my neck from the Judge show. So yeah,
that's what happens. I was like 3 rows back, and I was still getting hit and punched. But that's what it's like going into stuff like that. You just know, and it's either to see it up close to a certain level or be way far in the back.
Yeah.
But it's been really cool still having an affiliation and association with you today in 2018, all this time later. And it's more than just an acquaintance level, as of more recently as well. And I really appreciate your friendship and just your witnessing you not only on social media, but also hanging out with some of the circles that you hang out with and stuff like that in personal life. So it's been really cool just to see the transition as far as both of our lives and where we've been to where we're at now. Yeah,
definitely. And that's one of the reasons why I call the podcast Always the Journey,
mm-hmm.
because it's all about the journey of life, and it's about documenting, and that's why I give you crazy props for doing this, because Bowers Tribe is in the house, by the way. This is really amazing because it's really about that human connection,
mm-hmm.
and getting out and getting to know people on this personal level and helping other people understand people in your friend network.
Yes.
And it is all about the journey, and some of the things that I tell people is do your best to be vulnerable, and to not have that fear of what you look like on camera, or what you look like on stage, or what the world's going to think if you start a new business, or if you launch a new product, or start a new band, or become a DJ or a graffiti artist, or whatever that looks like. Do it.
Absolutely.
Because we're only here once. The one life, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to sort of jump out there and make cool things happen. And I see you doing that all the time, and I love it, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. And once again, it comes back down to that one word, action.
Yes.
It always comes back down to action, and that action can be either positive or something different. But it's always the growing experience, and I wish you the very best of success with the venture you're currently on.
Thanks.
Now, there's going to be some websites coming up in the future for everything you're doing now, but you also have some other stuff we'll link below this. So if you want to connect and learn more about what Jason's all currently about and doing in his life today, definitely reach out or click on some of the links below, and you can connect in with him personally. Now, Jason, would it be safe to say that we're friends in real life and not just on Facebook.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay, well, thanks for tuning in for the Bowers Tribe Friends Tour, and stay tuned for some other fun experiences coming up.
Thanks for watching.